Hi everyone, Paul here. I've been reading lots and lots of predictions and modelling and all this about the future of the economy, and it looks like it's been narrowed down by the thousands of experts to three possible scenarios, which I think are it's going to be better, it's going to be worse, or it's going to be the same. So kind of amazing actually that all of those experts have managed to narrow it down to just those three possible outcomes. But could we be in for a positive recession if it's a bit bad for a bit after we're all allowed out again? Because if you think about all the previous recessions, they've generally been something that effectively you can sort of lay at the government's door. Whether you're Labour or Conservative or whatever government has been in power, they've all had a recession under their leadership. But this one's a bit different to that, isn't it? Because you can't really lay the blame for it at the government's door. It's a completely external thing that's happened. But what's also happening is that even with the talk about it, there's a lot of positive sentiment that still remains in the market. Like buyers are still positive about it. You see lots of stories of agents agreeing sales with virtual viewing, subject to a physical viewing later on, people instructing solicitors, people instructing their mortgage. There are lenders who are still happy to lend 90% on a desktop valuation. That's pretty amazing, right? And lenders are fairly, risk averse. They're not really known for their charitable status and saying, we think the price is going to go down by a lot, but we'll still lend you loads of money. They're normally the first to say no, but that's not happening either, is it? So I just wonder, could we be in for some sort of positive downturn, if you like, where the mood is generally that it will be a short-term thing, not like a long, laborious, lumbering recession or depression, but something where we're going to get a bit of a shock for a bit, but then we will come out the other side. And if that mood prevails, then maybe that will be enough to sustain things. If lenders are still happy to lend, and if buyers are still happy to buy, maybe even prices might dip a bit, but could there be a more positive mood than normally in a recession? Because normally when a recession's coming, or when you know it's coming and you can feel it, first thing that happens is everyone stops buying. They kind of pull back and they kind of go, the beginning of a recession, you don't really want to get involved because you don't know how long it's going to be and you don't know how bad it's going to be. And if you think of the last two, certainly in London, prices dropped by 30%. So you don't really want to buy a property at the beginning of a recession unless you get that 30% off at the beginning. But nobody will do that because people that own a property will be kind of slightly more optimistic, I think, and hope maybe it won't go down by 30% this time. But if the view wasn't that was going to happen, if the view that we might get a sharp shock and that maybe prices were going to drop by 10% in the short term, but then they were going to recover later, then that might be quite interesting, mightn't it? The mood might be enough to sustain things and for us not to go into a kind of a slump in interest and deals done, but simply a kind of a bit of an adjustment at the level that deals are done at. Everybody may be moving that onto their next property and accepting that, they lose 10% on this one, maybe they'll get it back on the next one. And maybe even people thinking, if I get 10% less, that's not so tragic anyway. That's not going to get in the way of me moving on with my life. And in the long run, I'll forget about it anyway, because normally, even if you're disappointed with the price you get, you're kind of over it when you move into your next home, and all that joy and delight at getting the next house that you really love, or you go to the job that you're relocating for, or your children get in the school that you're really hoping is getting them. All the feeling that you might have had about how well you didn't necessarily do on your previous home sort of dissipates quite quickly, really. So yeah, I just wondered what you think. Is it possible to have a positive recession? Will the mood just sustain it and we'll go, that's all right, that's the way it's going to be for a few months, it doesn't really matter, life's a lot longer than that anyway, so let's just get on with things anyway? I'd love to hear what you think. Please say something. Just remember that everything's easier when you're the favourite.